It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman. I am here with Chris Padgett. He is one of the speakers here at the Steubenville Conference, and I am excited to talk to you about CatholicFam.org.
Catholic family and marriage? Yes. Thank you. I'm excited about talking about it too.
When did you get the idea to get that started?
So here's the interesting thing. Linda and I had been praying and talking
Your wife, Linda.
My wife, Linda, a long time about should we keep doing what we're doing as a nonprofit or a for-profit. Mm-hmm. So for over 20 years, we've been doing full-time ministry, and it's all been a for-profit. That's how we basically ran it as a business. And we'd been deciding and discerning for a while, should we kind of move it into a nonprofit arena? What does that mean? What does that look like? A year ago, I had open heart surgery, which was not on my to-do list. And when I came out of that and we started the recovery, I think Linda and I both had known, okay, it is time. We're going to move forward with this. It was really the catalyst to try to focus all our efforts. And what we decided was our heartbeat has been for so long marriage and family. And everything I do really is in that world. Let's basically try to get everything under one hub. So we thought of it a lot like a wheel. Here's the hub. And from that, all these different things happen on a constant, regular basis.
Okay.
So we said, what's the hub? And what the hub is our ministry with families and with marriages. So I spent some time talking to Chris Padgett. We were trying to talk a little bit about this process, and he was with me as I sent him a million tweets about what the name could be. He was so patient and good. I spent a lot of time talking to Justin Fatica about nonprofit stuff, and he was a great asset, a great friend, and came up with a name that my web guy, Carson Weber, actually had thought of. Why not call it Catholic Fam for family and marriage? Mm-hmm. That's available. Let's go for it. So in a lot of ways, it was just kind of the perfect moment. I remember actually Stefanik said to me, Chris, it sounds to me like you're basically a few hires away from being where you want to be, or you really want to go into the nonprofit route. And we prayed about it and thought about it. My wife and I said, I think we're going to do nonprofit, and I think we're going to have not just us, but we're going to have our good friends, the Perrins. We'll ask them if they want to do this ministry with us. So Bob and Lisa Perrin kind of joined forces right at the beginning, and we just started to dream about what this ministry was going to look like, and came up with basically this simple reality is that it's a ministry to help encourage, equip, and empower marriages and families. Mm-hmm. So we're off and running. January 1st officially. We got all the paperwork stuff done. It was officially 501c3 nonprofit. We had a great lawyer, a good Catholic guy, took care of all the logistics. We got a great accountant. We got everything running. And basically, it's been incredible. So it's a good beginning.
And I know you've got a lot of resources that you're doing with that, but what is the end goal?
Right. The end goal is it's an evangelistic ministry ultimately that basically comes alongside people and wants to encourage them. Like, don't give up. Because I think what we realized is that marriages are so basically frustrated and falling apart and under attack. They often feel alone. They don't have a lot of support. And so what we wanted to do is come alongside them, encourage them, and just say, you know what? It's going to be okay. Here's a million examples and reasons why it's worth going on and continuing. So we create resources. We create programs and books and put on presentations. There's a lot of real tangible boots on the ground kind of stuff that we do. But we also recognize we didn't want it just to be information only. We really wanted to try to empower people to put into play these programs. So we've created these programs so that anybody at any place could actually do them. We have a video series that'll be out in about 2 weeks. It's called Building Authentic Relationships, the BAR. Mm-hmm. And that's an evangelistic program for couples. It's gathering once a month that basically people hang out, they ask questions, they fellowship, they build relationships. And then basically it just kind of gives people the freedom to say, hey, don't worry, it's not super churchy. Come hang out with us. And it's usually at a home or at some sort of neutral location. We give them all the questions, a video for how they can do it, and then they're off and running. That's just one of a million things that we're kind of doing now. The other big effort has been social media. We're slamming social media nonstop to try to give as much encouragement to people as possible. Because again, part of this was like, where is everybody going for encouragement? Like, how do you make it as a married couple? Where do you go for fellowship? And we found that there was really hardly anything out there.
So is this something that a parish kind of gets on board with and they start putting this on for their parishioners? Or is this something that individuals kind of say, hey, let's get this going in our neighborhood? Or
it's
whatever?
Both.
Okay.
So here's what we did. For example, this has been the year in Syracuse, the year for the family. The bishop wanted this year to be a year focusing on the family, which is phenomenal for us since our ministry started. So we put on programs all year long for the different areas of our diocese. We have a program called Embrace, which is a gathering for couples in any walk of their journey, just to come and have about 3 talks in one night that really goes super deep, dealing with some difficulties. We get them talking. It's a beautiful night. We have dinner, and then we go into these talks. It's been very successful. We also have a program. We do all the pre-Canas for our diocese, so we get a chance to interact with all the couples getting married. And we've done a family mission, a few of those in each of the regions, which is pretty exciting as well. In addition to the bar, which is that evangelistic program once a month, we also have some stuff coming out that are book resources and a program for parishes called Grow. So ultimately,
a lot of stuff going on.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So part of what we're doing is we're trying to say, if a diocese wanted to implement a program that helped actually give tangible resources to a church, we've got those. But we also know that couples basically are going to be the greatest asset for evangelizing other couples. So we wanted to create programs that somebody could implement in their home. So we have those. And then we also realized that sometimes it's just an individual who reads a book and they put it in their book program. So we have the books. So what we did is we just thought any media that could reach a person, video, books, podcasts, social media, we are on it, and we are just 100% all out for this ministry, because in the end, what we knew was we weren't going to be an Ascension Press. We thank God for them. But what we knew was our job was to encourage and to give people that hope that says, you know what, I want to try again. You know what, I need some community and some fellowship. Okay, let's help you get that going.
I'm talking with Chris Padgett, and you can find these resources at catholicfam.org. And whenever you talk about issues that especially marriages are dealing with, I suppose getting to the root of it, perhaps it has to do with that pre-Cana issue. And I know people all over the country have complained about marriage prep programs.
Yeah.
And so trying to prepare couples before they get into the marriage, or maybe before they get into a marriage that they're not actually called to.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're doing in your pre-Cana program to help prepare couples?
Well, we have one day with these couples. So our program is amidst all the other diocesan obligations, the meetings with the parishes, the pastors, stuff like that. In our one-day event, we do a number of different talks. We talk about some of the fun things that they remember. We have a talk called The First. Then we go into the basics, which basically are basic principles that every couple needs in order to not just survive, but thrive.
Okay. Wait, can I stop you there?
Oh,
Can
yeah.
we talk about those? Because that sounds like something that I need to know about.
So basics, when we do, well, the first is a simple question of, we try to get people to remember all the reasons they fell in love with each other in the first place. So we have a list, and then we have them break out and they go through that list and they try to remember, what was our first date like? What was it like? What kind of cologne was she wearing? He wearing? And what kind of, maybe that was interesting. What kind of cologne was he wearing? She wearing? So we have them remember all the reasons they fell in love, basically. Then they come back after that and they kind of share a story about it, and it's pretty funny. Then we do a talk basically on the basics. And the basics basically looks at 7 points, basically virtues that every couple needs to thrive in a marriage. They're not rocket scientists. Actually, what it is everybody should basically say after each point, oh, that makes sense. It's not a novel idea. So things like commitment, basically believe in one another, dream together, basically self-control. And I connected the theological virtues and the cardinal virtues to a modern understanding of a virtue. And I put that together so that the couples could look at that and say, if we can grow in these areas, dignity, respect, if we can grow in those wise choices, then what happens is that they start to develop the habit of implementing virtue in their relationships. What's fascinating about that is just how easy it is to see couples that struggle because there's one or two that is just not in sync with each other. They're struggling. Maybe the things that they're saying to each other are far more aggressive and even heartless compared to anything they would have ever said in their job.
Right.
And that's a big problem. We talk a lot about the things that you say. My wife likes to say, if you say something long enough, you start to believe it. So you need to be careful. So that's a pretty important. And then I do a talk a little later on in that day, which is basically looking at these pillars, these relational pillars that everybody has experiences in, like family, friends, and significant others. This is a big deal because the whole understanding of how we are father and husband or wife, mother, comes from how we were brought up. And if you had a dysfunctional home, that's basically going to be your understanding, your reference point for being that dad, that mom, that wife, that husband. And what we try to do is right from the beginning say, you don't have to necessarily think I'm paralyzed by my past, but you need to understand your past so you can avoid doing some things that you know you don't want to do. So let's say you grow up in a home where discipline was aggressive and maybe even borderline abusive. You can say, I don't want to do that, but it's your model and it's basically your reference point for discipline. Unless you're very careful, it would be easy to fall back into what you've seen, experienced, and known your whole life.
Okay.
Because it's almost become ingrained in you.
Sure.
It has to be an intentional separation and departure from that. So we look at those kind of issues and talk about why maybe certain couples might struggle with, for example, anger issues, pornography, addictions, because what happens is that if you trace it back, you can see a lot of times where it began was in their home when they were young kids. So those kind of programs are really helpful because I think it helps to lay the foundation for a couple getting ready to be married to say, okay, I know it's great now and exciting and it seems blissful and it's going to be perfect, but you're bringing possibly a whole bunch of baggage into that marriage. And as a result, you want to at least talk about that. And if you've not, this is a good time to start. And not to be weird about it, we've had times where people do not continue on with their marriage after the pre-Cana. And in some ways, I think that's a success.
Sure.
Because I would rather them realize that now and just wait and try to get a few things figured out beforehand. So
I know you've got a lot of other things. I feel like any one of these topics we could talk for hours on.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we mention the bulletin inserts.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you guys do.
So every month we do a bulletin insert. Any parish in the country can include it for free. It's something that we do. It's something meant to be super practical, tangible. Again, it's evangelistic, encouraging. A couple, maybe they're coming to Mass for the first time in months. They open up that bulletin and out drops this, I'm bored at church. Kids are misbehaving. What do I do? And it just lends them hope to say, hey, we're so glad you're in church. Don't be discouraged. And it's real practical, real tangible. We mail that out every month for free. Anybody who wants it can sign up. They show up on an email list for me and I email that out. We put that together faithfully every month. We also have an online magazine. Every month it's done. It's a whole bunch of great stuff on there. I have a cool little thing called Spiritual Fatherhood. I do interviews with priests and I ask them, tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up. Well, how did your parents influence you being a priest? I do a thing for dads. I ask them, how has being a dad changed your life? We have this 411 on fatherhood. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we're doing. And again, it's just the beginning. We're literally only 6 months into it. And our latest thing starts in about a week and a half. We're going to do these gatherings, these worship gatherings once a month. We're going to call them family gatherings. It's just a night of just fellowshipping, worshiping, and inviting neighbors over to literally our garage where we're going to sing, have a potluck, give like a gospel message, and basically invite people to be loved right where they are. And we've got approval from our pastor, our parish pastor. And I mean, we're really just kind of thinking we're going to try everything possible. We might fail a million times. We're going to try everything possible to reach out to people to let them know they're not alone.
Awesome.
We're out of control.
Check it out, catholicfam.org. Thanks, Chris Padgett, for sharing this with us and for all the good work that you're doing. This is awesome.
I love you. Thanks, man.